The further apart you can batch tasks, the more productive you'll be, as it will enable you to focus more time on your most important tasks. However, you have to be careful, because if you schedule stuff apart too much, you could upset someone. You could, although there's, as I was saying earlier, there's no real emergencies in my opinion. If you don't get back to someone on an email or pay something by a certain time, you might piss that person off or pay a rather hefty fine.
Welcome to Corporate Warrior, the podcast that brings you the best advice on how to improve your health, optimize performance, and maximize productivity. With your host, Lawrence Neal.
This episode is brought to you by the Resistance Exercise Conference, the science and application of strength training for health and human performance. Would you like to learn from the top strength training researchers, network and connect with other exercise professionals from all over the world, join a welcome reception on a Friday night to build relationships with other strength training professionals, experience an early morning workout from an expert trainer to kickstart your Saturday, and get inspired, rejuvenated, and focused on your strength training business? I certainly do, and that is why I am attending and interviewing all of the speakers at the event. The Resistance Exercise Conference will be held on the 9th and 10th of March 2018 in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Commons Hotel. To get 10% off your entry fee, head on over to resistanceexerciseconference.com, click the registration button, and enter Corporate Warrior 10 in the promo code field in PayPal. I'm very excited about this, and I've wanted to attend for years. Sign up now at resistanceexerciseconference.com and get 10% off with promo code Corporate Warrior 10, and I look forward to meeting you in person. This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I've ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity training trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To find out more about ARX and how you can get $1,000 off software licensing when you place an order, that's right guys, $1,000 off, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. So again, to get $1,000 off software licensing when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. Hey guys, I am Lawrence Neal and welcome to another episode of Corporate Warrior, the podcast that teaches you how to optimize your high-intensity training protocol and your HIIT business to help you achieve your health, fitness, and business goals. My former guests include people like Mark Sisson, Rob Wolf, Ben Greenfield, Dr. Doug McGuff, David Allen, Noah Kagan, Luke Carlson, and many, many more. This episode is an in-between-isode. I'm going to talk to you about how to use batching in your business and lifestyle for increased productivity. So I'm going to cover what is batching and why does it work, how to use batching to increase your productivity within your business and life and reduce stress at the same time, and exactly where I use batching in my business and lifestyle as well. I'm going to start doing more focused episodes like this on specific tactics and strategies in high intensity training in terms of working out, but also in your own businesses. So let me know if you like them. For all of the show notes and links for this episode and all episodes, please go to corporatewarrior.org. And don't forget to hang around at the end when you can find out how you can get my free gift. And now, please enjoy my short episode with yours truly on batching. Hi guys, in this episode I'm going to talk about a concept called batching. So batching is a productivity concept I learned from Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek a long time ago, and it's something I've used for a long time now, and I've used it particularly a lot in my podcasting and blog business more recently to be a lot more productive. So what is batching? Well, think about a t-shirt commercial printing company. If someone comes to that company and prints 20 t-shirts with a customized logo, for argument's sake, that might cost them $300 and a lead time of 1 week. And if that same company or person comes back to the company to print another 3 t-shirts another time, the cost for setup will be the same and the lead time will still be 1 week. So therefore, it makes sense to only process that order once the business or person in question has a large enough quantity to process. And obviously, that's far more cost and time effective. So we're going to use this solution to deal with the necessary but time-consuming tasks that get in the way of the most important things. So another way of illustrating this in perhaps a less tangible but more typical scenario in your business might be the example of email. So let's say, for instance, that you process email and each instance takes you 30 minutes, or you spend 30 minutes. And over the course of 2.5 hours in a day, you process 20 email, but you've done that in a number of instances that have added up to 2.5 hours. If you were to consolidate that and reduce that to once per week, it might say take you 90 minutes, but you'll still be able to respond to the same volume of email, to those 20 emails. So it's a far more efficient way to tackle tasks and to tackle those necessary time consumers just much more efficiently. People often do the former, so they often do the whole checking email multiple times a day or all the way through the day in some instances, and I've been guilty of that in fear of an emergency. They think if they miss something that it's going to have a terrible impact on their business, which has never happened in my personal experience. And I think seldom happens in real life. And to be honest, are these actually real emergencies? Is there anything that is that impactful? Maybe there is, but I certainly haven't seen it. And I think the upside of moving to this way of batching activities, and certainly in the case of email, the upsides outweigh that risk tremendously. And typically, if you do miss some kind of deadline, it's normally in terms of email or this will probably apply to a lot of the scenarios that you end up batching. It's usually reversible and costs a minimum to correct even. So with task switching, there is an inescapable hidden cost. There is a setup time for all tasks, regardless of their size. And every time you switch tasks, so if you don't batch and you just go from task to task and you revert back to that original task, there is a psychological switching of gears. And so every time you switch back to that task and do it in piecemeal fashion, you are going to pay that setup fee every single time. So I've been finding batching incredibly useful lately in my own business, which has really gave me the inspiration to create a piece of content here now to help you guys understand the value of batching and implement it in your own business and life for much greater productivity. As it just enables you to get stuff done in your business much more quickly and effectively. So I'm going to give you a few examples of where I use it and how I use it. For example, I will batch anything I have to do regularly. So in terms of this podcast, I generally record the introductions to all of my episodes separately. So I will record an episode or record a bunch of episodes, maybe 4 or 5. And then I will set aside an entire morning or maybe 1 or 2 hours. In fact, it normally takes me about 1 or 2 hours, no longer. I will record all of the introductions to those episodes in one hit. So I'll be in a real flow state because I'll just be recording introduction after introduction. And I just noticed that after each one, I just start flowing even more smoothly than the one previous. So typically what I do is I'll set aside maybe an hour to write my introductions. And if anyone's heard my stuff about checklists, and I've done, podcasts about checklists, I already have a checklist for my intro. So as you guys know, if you've been listening to the show for a long time, you'll notice that the intro is constantly getting refined and improved, or at least I like to think. And it will always be improved based on how I feel about it and the feedback and what I learn from what other podcasters are doing and that kind of thing. So I take that template, I put it into a document on Evernote, and I will then tailor that intro to the specific episode. And I'll write them all out, and I'll do that for, let's say, 5 episode introductions. And then I will record all of them back to back and record them all in one go. I use batching for recording new podcast episodes. So I use Schedule Once, and I block out recurring availability on a Monday and Tuesday. And it's about a 4 or 5 hour batch of time. And I will ask new guests to book with me in an hour or two within that availability that suits them. And that enables me to do maybe 2 to 3 episodes back to back. So again, I'm in that kind of flow state. I'm not switching gears, and I'm just more effective and more productive at a given task. I batch email, so I tend to check email at the moment every 3 to 4 days. I will allocate an hour to run through email, and I use things like Email Game and Boomerang to process email effectively. And I try to discipline myself so that the goal is not to go to inbox zero. The goal is to check email and process email within that hour and then move on to the next thing, whatever that is. Try to do the same with social media, although I'm not quite as good. I'm trying to get better at batching social media as opposed to being addicted to social media all day long and checking it through the day. So that's something I'm still working on. I batch phone calls. So similar to how I schedule podcast time, I batch I think it's from memory, Wednesday and Thursdays afternoons for business phone calls. And I try and group those together. Currently, not doing very much in the way of business calls, since a lot of the deals I've done recently have been done and are in, we're in the midst of those contracts. So I haven't really had much requirement for business calls lately, but generally speaking, that is where I will schedule those calls and batch those. Same with meetings. I would always try to batch meetings. So back when I was in B2B IT sales in London in the UK, I would try where possible to batch meetings together. I don't have meetings really anymore, so I don't really have to worry about that. And I've subsequently eliminated that task from my routine. So where can you apply batching in your high intensity training business? So I think a number of you are probably, almost all of you, if not all of you, are doing this already, but it makes sense to obviously batch and block time for your personal training sessions. I just think that's an obvious one. You're obviously going to be far more effective and efficient if you can book appointments back to back rather than switching gears and doing other activities after each session. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. But it does make sense to batch email, which we've already spoken about. And I've already given you an example of how I do that. And batching things like marketing activity and PR, scheduling time in your diary, assuming that's an important activity for you. It might not be, but assuming it is, scheduling an hour or 2 hours where that's the only task you focus on, rather than just kind of dipping in and out of those types of things through the week, which might not be the best way to do it. Same might apply to customer service. So let's say you provide your clients with phone or email access to you. It would make a much more sense to pre-agree a time where you're available for customer service with your clients, and then schedule things like customer contact via phone or email or what have you, or live chat within those hours. And I do encourage you to audit your business. Look at all of the activities you do that are important and necessary, but perhaps aren't the key activities or the most important things in your business, and look at how you can batch those going forward. Batching has also played a key role in my personal life. And I think to start with, exercise is a really interesting one, because high intensity strength training, and the reason I got so attracted to it in the first place, is because it's so damn effective and efficient.
And it lends itself to this concept really, really well, which is that, most of us who are doing high intensity training, we're consolidating most, if not all, of our exercise into half an hour, 20 minutes. So we're already batching in a sense there. But the other thing as well is for high intensity training to be effective, for many of us, we have to insert recovery days, or at least I do. I know there's some people I had on my show who train much more frequently than that. And I do think perhaps it exists on a spectrum. But anyway, for me personally, and I think for a lot of people out there, it makes sense to have more recovery between sessions. So I tend to do at the moment 2 sessions a week, 2 high intensity training sessions, and I will work out probably every 4 or 5 days. And I pre-schedule that in my calendar, and I have one of these repeat every 4 days settings there. So the block of time just repeats itself in my calendar every 4 days. So that's one example of batching in my personal life. I do the similar thing with laundry. I'm not going to elaborate because I really don't think it's that interesting. I do the same thing with going through my in tray. So kind of similar to email, I have an in tray where I have a digital and a physical in tray where I put all my thoughts, ideas, mail, just general crap that needs to be sorted through. And rather than sort it as I get it, I wait until I get a critical mass and then I sort that. And I tend to do that every 2nd or 3rd day from memory, and have that scheduled in my calendar accordingly. Cooking is a big one. So recently, I've really got interested in the whole zero carb movement. Even though I'm not strictly zero carb, I'm more low carb. I do have some carbohydrates in my diet, generally in the evenings. But I found that this embracing kind of eating more red meat, very, very effective in terms of cooking productivity. So what I tend to do now is I might cook 4 or 5 steaks in one go, might fry those all up. And then right there, I've got meals for 1 or 2 days. And I don't mind eating ribeyes cold because they taste amazing. And it just saves a whole load of time fannying about, spending whatever it is, an hour, 2 hours a day cooking. And now that's shrunk right down. So by really sort of batching my cooking has had a big impact. And there's an even more extreme example of this. A guy called Corey Wadden, who started a business called Millionaire by 25. He did a YouTube video where he cooked an entire week's worth of food in one day. And it's very interesting. Not sure how, I'm certainly not that extreme and not sure how sustainable that is for people, but I will put it in the show notes for you to check out. So you want to schedule your batch tasks as infrequently as possible or as appropriate. The further apart you can batch tasks, the more productive you'll be, as it will enable you to focus more time on your most important tasks. However, you have to be careful because if you schedule stuff apart too much, or too much apart, you could upset someone. You could, although there's, as I was saying earlier, there's no real emergencies in my opinion. If you don't get back to someone on an email or pay something by a certain time, you might piss that person off or, pay a rather hefty fine. So you do have to really adapt this to what works for you. And I keep coming back to this concept in my podcast, which is, find out what works for you, and manage that appropriately and tailor that to your way of working. So you really got to adapt this. For much more information on batching, and just more examples, buy a copy of the 4-Hour Workweek. Don't have to read the whole book, although it's incredible. But it's excellent because it's got a whole section on batching and it helps you figure out, how far apart should you be batching certain activities? How do you work that out from a cost point of view, to really help inform your decision on that side of things. And, it's important to note, this stuff doesn't always go to plan, like sometimes you have to dive into email when you haven't scheduled to deal with something and deviate from your plan. And that's just life. So don't get stressed out trying to be this like robotic, perfect business person who has this system that they never ever deviate from, because that's just not very human and that's just not that realistic. But the way I see it is, so long as you are operating with this type of mindset and structure, 80% of the time, you're going to get significantly better results. And I do honestly believe it will put you in rarefied company, in that top sort of 5% or 2.5% of entrepreneurs and productive people in general. So there it is, guys. So just to wrap up, the real purpose of batching is to get more stuff done efficiently, stress-free, and to enable you to spend more time on the most important tasks or things you enjoy the most. So I hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want more stuff like this, let me know. I love recording these mini in-between episodes. And for all the show notes, links and resources for this episode, please go to corporatewarrior.org. And there you will find a link to this episode, but you'll also find links to all of my other episodes. And all of them will have very, very detailed show notes. And until next time, guys, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. Before you head off, head on over to corpwarrior.com to get your free ebook with 6 interview transcripts with some of my top guests, including Dr. Doug McGuff, Drew Bay, and Bill DeSimone, on how to optimize muscle gain, fat loss, and overall health in an efficient, effective, and sustainable way. These transcripts are not verbatim, deliberately. Instead, they've been transcribed in an easy read format to make it more enjoyable and easier for you to quickly pick out what you need and start getting results. To get your ebook, head on over to corpwarrior.com, that's CORP warrior.com, and enter your email address. Then check your email for an email from me with a confirmation link. Once you click the link, you will be instantly redirected to a PDF version of the transcripts. This episode is brought to you by the Resistance Exercise Conference, the science and application of strength training for health and human performance. Would you like to learn from the top strength training researchers, network and connect with other exercise professionals from all over the world, join a welcome reception on a Friday night to build relationships with other strength training professionals, experience an early morning workout from an expert trainer to kickstart your Saturday, and get inspired, rejuvenated, and focused on your strength training business? I certainly do, and that is why I am attending and interviewing all of the speakers at the event. The Resistance Exercise Conference will be held on the 9th and 10th of March 2018 in Minneapolis, Minnesota at the Commons Hotel. To get 10% off your entry fee, head on over to resistanceexerciseconference.com, click the registration button, and enter Corporate Warrior 10 in the promo code field in PayPal. I'm very excited about this and I've wanted to attend for years. Sign up now at resistanceexerciseconference.com and get 10% off with promo code Corporate Warrior 10, and I look forward to meeting you in person. This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I've ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity training trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To find out more about ARX and how you can get $1,000 off software licensing when you place an order, that's right guys, $1,000 off, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior in the How Did He Hear About Us field. So again, to get $1,000 off software licensing when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior in the How Did He Hear About Us field.